I'm Sonya Morton Firth, and you're watching the Sonya Morton Firth Show. Here are some of the best bits of 2019, compiled into 2 parts. Press subscribe to watch some of my truly amazing guests that I've had on my show this year. Let their words of wisdom inspire you into 2020. Have a fantastic year.
Eat salad for breakfast.
Eat salad for breakfast?
Exactly.
I'm a big protein eater, but eating salad for breakfast?
So what I've learnt from my big ultra endurance challenges, and remember we talked about before, is that when I retired from football, I wanted to be this endurance adventure.
Yes.
And I wanted to go through and write magazine articles, documentaries made, speak on stage. And people would tell me, you can't do that. I'm like, why not? It's not a real job. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, but why do I have to get a real job? This is where I'm passionate about. This is what I want to try and do. And I looked at it as an investment in myself. And now that it's gone full circle to today in 2019, it's like that dream I had, it was a dream in 2011.
Yeah.
I'm fulfilling that. Everything that I wanted to do.
Amazing.
I've wrote magazine articles to magazines and had features all published all around the world. I've got documentaries out, I've got a book published, I speak on stage around the world. I've done it. But if I listened to everyone back then that said, well, you should just get a real job, when are you going to face up to the fact that you've got to get out there and be an adult, And it was like, no, like, I want to eat salad for breakfast. And this was just something that popped into my head at the time. So what I've learned from my whole career of an endurance adventurer and then as an athlete as well is that you don't have to fit into the mold. And that's what eating salad for breakfast is. It's abiding by society's laws, because we've got to, okay, but not by its rules. So the reason why I call it eating salad for breakfast is we're told what we eat for breakfast. You go to the supermarket.
Absolutely right.
Go to the supermarket and on boxes it says breakfast cereal. That's what we eat. Okay, you don't go to the butcher and it doesn't say breakfast food on a steak. Okay, so we're told that we should eat muesli and cereal and toast and maybe on the weekend some smoked salmon and poached eggs. We're told that this is normal. This is acceptable to eat for breakfast. Now, if you eat a salad for breakfast and you go out to the street and you ask people, is salad a normal breakfast? And they'll say no.
Unless you're a rabbit, of course, where they might.
100%. And they'll say no. And so, well, why not? Well, it's just not. Well, why? It's because society has put so many people into a box and says, this is how you need to act. Why? Because if everyone ate salad for breakfast, what would happen to the breakfast cereals? I started with a life philosophy. It was something that I first heard from Coach Carroll from the Seattle Seahawks, an American football team. He talks about having a life philosophy, and it's basically how you live your life every single day, how you spend your time. It's a guiding set of principles, a word, a paragraph. And he talks about having a life philosophy, I think it's a personal philosophy, his exact words, in under 20 words. And I was like, right, I'm going to do this. And my first life philosophy was a page. It was like, how do I want to live my life? Like words, phrases, sentences, and things like that. And I got it down to building relationships, learning daily, and teaching others what life has taught me. When I wake up in the morning, we've all got 1,440 minutes every single day.
Worked it out to the minutes.
1440. We have this amount of minutes every day. So how I spend that time, it has to line up with my life philosophy. So if I'm going to spend time, effort, money, and connect people within my network, if it doesn't line up with building relationships, learning daily, and teaching others what life has taught me, then there has to be a really big reason why I'm doing this, or why I'm spending this effort, time, and money on doing this thing that's been put in front of me. When you know how you want to live your life and how you spend every single moment of every day, when you have these guiding lights, life becomes really simple. Because when someone says, hey, do you want to come and do this? And you're like,
does it fit into my life philosophy, those 3 things? Or,
no, it doesn't. And the other thing, so that was a life philosophy thing. That was massive for me. The other thing was knowing why I want to do what it is I'm spending my time and my effort and my money on. And I realized that at first there was 2 levels of whys. There was the superficial and the deep-rooted. But then I played around with this for a period of time, and I realized there's actually 3 levels, and I've called it my why tree. Now, you and I have spoken about the why tree before.
We have spoken about the why tree, and lots of people do talk about their why, but I was interested to hear about your philosophy on it. And
Yeah,
yes,
so if people are going to ask me to do something, or if I'm going to do something, so my next big challenge or another big challenge, why do I want to do these big challenges? I have to have a complete why tree. And the why tree is this. There's 3 levels. There's the leaves of the tree. Okay? They're the superficial whys. They're the shiny things. They're the things that first grab your attention. They're important. They complete the tree and they're fun.
So it could be like money or something
money,
like
car,
that.
world record, being the first, being the fastest, growing the biggest, getting an award, things like this. Okay, they're cool. We should have these. Okay, but then are they going to get you out of bed every morning when everything goes wrong? Okay, so say it's in the middle of winter in the UK and I have to go out for a 4-hour run. It's dark, it's pouring with rain, it's 0 degrees. If I'm training for a running adventure, just for the fact that I want to be the first to do this run, is it really going to get me out of bed?
No,
Probably
the
not.
bed's probably more comfortable.
100%. So the branch wires are the next level, okay, because the leaves are attached to the branches. Now these are structural, these are strong, these are sturdy. A lot of people think they're deep-rooted wires, their fuel source are these branch wires, but they're the connectors. Okay, they are sturdy, they are structurally strong, and they are very important to you. But it's when we go down from the branches to down the trunk to then the roots. These are the deep-rooted wires. These take time to understand. We have to ask ourselves, okay, these branch wires, but why do we want to do this? So
And presumably everyone's deep-rooted why is different.
Of course.
So
and you have multiple deep-rooted wires as well. You don't just have one. Because where does the tree get its fuel from? From the earth, from the soil. And how does it do that? Extract it through the roots. So literally you have to spend the time on digging down into why you really truly want to do this. And when you do that, when you understand your deep-rooted whys, and you can have multiple, this is the fuel source that's going to get you out of bed in the morning to actually push past when everyone else is, I couldn't be bothered. And when you get hit with obstacles, when you have to adapt to setbacks, and when you need to see opportunities that you never saw before, when you know these deep-rooted whys, they're powerful and they help you create clarity. And I truly believe that when you have clarity, it's the eternal energy that will fuel your dreams and your goals. When you're clear of what you want to achieve, these deep-rooted whys help you create clarity. You need the branch whys and the superficial ones to get you going at times when it's difficult. But when you have all 3, whoa, it's powerful.
And I wish, sometimes I made a point to say to myself, I'm happy. I'm happy the way I look. I don't want to do, I'm just going to maintain. Can anyone in the fitness industry get to that point? Any girls, any man can say to themselves, they look at themselves in the mirror, you know what, that's good enough. There's other thing in life to just carry on and get bigger and get fat, and go for the next competition. You've got to be happy. So why doing all this work for so long and all these restrictions and always, and just keep on looking in the mirror and go, still not good enough.
Yeah, you just got to go out and enjoy it sometimes as well. Enjoy all your hard work as well. Put some nice clothes out and go and have a drink or eat or have some social.
I know. I mean, we all do, but it's just be happy. Be happy with what you've got, and just anyway. Much better than probably 99.9% of people walking around the city.
And you've just recently competed in WBFF. I saw the photos in November. You looked amazing.
I was the eldest one on stage.
And at 53.
I had a 20-year-old next to me.
53. And you went open category.
Yeah. I mean, the whole category was open. So it was 22 of us on stage. Unfortunately, I didn't place. It was too tough as a category. But
you looked fantastic, though. I mean, I saw the photos and the videos.
I'm happy. I don't really... At my age, I don't wait for approbation anymore. I'm 53 years of age. I think it's difficult to judge me against who? Against another 53? There's none.
Do you find it hard mentally, though, to get on stage with the 20-something-year-olds and...
Obviously you get a little bit self-conscious, like, oh, am I out of place? Am I going to be, I said to my friends in the fitness industry, and I don't know if they're going to recognize themselves, but I do say to them, promise me I'm not delusional, and you will tell me when it's time to take the gloves off. Promise me Veronique, we don't really want to see you in a bikini anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not that nice anymore. Can you just put some clothes on? So I said, promise me. No, you can still do it. Don't worry.
You absolutely look fantastic. You're a long way off that.
Yeah, but there will be a stage where we don't want to look anymore at someone a bit older. Yeah, you look great, but you don't have to be in a bikini on heels on stage, okay? There's a point where you have to go, okay, I think
I say to people, listen, all of your issues, no matter what they are, they started with the relationship with your parents when you were a kid. Because that's where you first learnt about punishment reward. That's when you first learnt the false perception that love comes and love goes. Because when you were first scolded or beaten by your parents or spanked or, or humiliated or you felt your first shame, that was your first interaction with your parents. Because, something happened and suddenly you got scolded and you had never been scolded before that moment, or you got spanked and you were never spanked before that moment. And that's when everything shifts. And so the greatest issues that we have as adults is you can trace those all the way back to a dysfunctional relationship with our parents, or both of them, one or two of them. And so I always tell people, even if you never pick up a personal development book, learn to forgive your parents for whatever you think they did wrong.
Do you feel as a woman, I will turn to my friends, and I think that it's quite stereotypical for girls to talk, or women to talk amongst themselves. Do you think it's the same with men?
No, women find it much easier to talk and open up. Men find it a lot harder. Although now there's a lot of campaigns out there now, and there's a lot of men that are promoting, men's groups, etc., and encouraging men to open up, which is awesome, to open up about things like about depression and stress,
mental health,
suicide, mental health, all of that, which is fantastic. So more and more encouragement is out there now. However, there's still a lot of men who struggle to actually, bring themselves to that kind of group and open up. So, men are behind women in that, we're still quite behind the woman. I conditioned it into my nervous system, just like Tony talks about success conditioning. And it's not only Tony who talks about that. If you really want to be successful in life, you really need to condition yourself into the new paradigm, or into the new mindset, or into the new behavior. You can't just go to a workshop and expect that everything's going to change and stay changed. Because that's what happens with most people. They slide back into old habits because they frequent old peer groups. That's what I did. That was one of the most powerful things I did, is I stopped hanging around with the same group that I was hanging around at that time, even though I loved them and I know them for many years. They're still my friends to this day, but we've all changed now. We're all adults now. We're all fathers, business people, etc. But at that time, I needed to make a shift for myself. Yeah. And so in order to make that stick, I needed to find a new group of people that were playing a game at a higher level. People that would hold me accountable. And that's when I moved and I found that new peer group, and it really supported me.
So would you say to anybody, when they're at that really low point, you went through a tremendous amount of stress, drugs, drinking. If somebody's at a real low point, suicidal in life, are you saying just by going to a Tony Robbins event that's going to shift them and change them?
Yes, a weekend workshop like that can make a significant shift to someone's life. Because you got to think, the reason that these workshops like this, and Tony's not the only one who does workshops like this, the reason that they're so popular and effective is because when you are in that kind of environment for an immersive period of time, you immerse yourself, right? It's a long period of time. The vibration of that environment is very high, and everybody in that environment is raised to a higher level, and people really can face whatever they've come to face. And so you can have a significant shift in a workshop like that. You can have, because people are ready to confront whatever they want to confront. And when you've got a very skillful facilitator like Tony, it gives people the opportunity to look at what they don't want to look at when they're in their daily life, And so you can have a massive shift, definitely, and I did. But then the key is to continue with what you've learned in that workshop, to continue practicing what you've learned. And that's the challenge that most people face, is once they've gone to the workshop, they don't continue to practice what they've learned. They don't remove themselves from the old environments that they were spending time in, or the toxic environments that they were spending time in before they went to the workshop. They don't make significant changes, and you have to make significant changes if you want something to stick.
So significant changes, I mean, it's all very well saying change your network, change your environment, but are you saying people should literally dump their friends and find new ones? And where are they going to find these new ones?
Well, I think that if you... This is a good question. I hear this question all the time, and I'll give you the same answer I'll give everyone and say, if somebody's toxic, then you should spend less time with them.
I think it's human nature to want more. For our soul, which is connected to our body in this physical incarnation, to want to be the best it can possibly be, to make money. And you need money to achieve all the things you want to do. It would help if you had lots of money. I'm money motivated, but I'm more, money's just a tool to achieve all the other things I want to do. I want significance. But why? Because I want to help change things. And if I feel if I have significance, it might help. This is the thing. I just went to the Swami temple in the Krishna temple in Watford just 2 days ago, and I was talking to the Swami there. And it's really interesting. It's about being content and happy with what you have.
Yeah.
I'm actually content and happy, and I think, what makes me happier? I still want nice things, but I'm actually happy with what I got, and I think that's the secret.
If I ask you, because there are 6 human needs if you look at it, and significance is one of the issue with significance, if you continue to chase significance, it's only going to let you down. Is it significance or is it connection that you really want? Because significance feeds the ego, right?
Yeah, it is connection. And I went off on one, but significance is, I will get significance by having connection. But I won't get connection by having self-significance. If I'm going tracing for something, I'm maybe not going to get the other stuff. If I go for the connection, I'll get the significance. If you give yourself and give everything you can to something, the way I believe the universe works, you're naturally going to get stuff back.
All of a sudden they're no one. Next minute they're massive, and they've got money, fame, and everything, and they can't
handle it, right? And they turn to drugs.
Yeah, and they turn to kind of numbing those feelings, and we need to show people that there is help out there, and anyone in this industry, whatever you do, behind the camera, in front of the camera, everyone suffers with things, and I think it's important that there's somewhere they can go and talk to people.
What would you say to them if there is budding actors out there, or maybe people that have been on reality TV and they are suffering, but they don't want it? Is it to talk to somebody about?
Yeah, it's always about that. It's always about, even if it's with your best friend or with, someone that you don't even know, and there's a phone call, there's meetings, there's people that will listen, and then there's so much support out there nowadays, much more than when I was around, back then, doing all of that. And I think people are too full of, pride and ego, that they don't want people to know that actually they're really in pain and they're drinking every night. Because it's all like...
and you're in front of camera, presumably that whole thing is an ego.
You just don't want people to know you're weak.
Yeah.
Well, it's just pride, but pride will kill you, you know. And it is, it's all ego, and it's all just kind of like, worrying that you're going to say something that, someone's going to be angry with or something. That's not true. People are going to be happy to hear that. If someone's not well, you've got to ask for help. If you don't ask for help, how is anyone going to know? So it's about reaching out and asking for help, and I hope that more people do, Everyone loves a comeback, and there's always a chance, even if you feel really, really low and you don't want to be around anymore, there's always hope, and there's always a chance to make a comeback or to pull yourself out of that rut. So yeah, I don't know, every day people will say, wow, you give me strength, and because I send a lot of kind of good readings out to people and motivate people to kind of speak up if they're feeling rubbish, and to know that there is hope at the end of the tunnel. Do you know what I mean?
So because this is sort of a very high level way of doing it. I say to people, it is not necessarily aspirational, it is not necessarily what you're going to want, but it is the best way for you to start to see where in your life you're out of balance. And I have to pre-qualify what I say, because the first thing I say is 8 hours working. Now, the majority of people will never spend 8 hours working.
Well, specifically in the city as well, they either work stupid hours, but are they actually working? And 9 times out of 10, I remember sitting in the office thinking, well, I've got to wait till my boss leaves before I can leave.
And that's the interesting thing, we'll come on to that in a minute. And then 8 hours sleeping, and then the final one is 8 hours living. So in the 8 hours living, that is everything else. So what we're teaching in the 888 training is for people to identify how many hours they're working, how many hours they want to be working, how to be more productive. Is the job that they're in the right job for them? Is the career that they're doing and the path that they're progressing the right one? Then when it comes to sleep, how many hours sleep do they need? Like, I need 7 hours and 30 minutes. And sleep requirements are from 7 hours to 9 hours. And we've started to work with sleep specialists to look into this more. And then the final part with the living is that commuting is included in that. So how can you best commute?
Interesting, because usually it's stuck on a really hot and sticky tube, particularly at the moment.
So in this day and age, it's literally things like, what can you download to your phone? How can you maximize that time? Maybe you're listening to a book on Audible. Maybe you're meditating. Do you know how to meditate? Maybe you're catching up on TV shows. Maybe you're downloading the box sets from Netflix to your phone. So that you start to become in control of your time, and your time is not in control with you. You know, people say time ran away with me.
Yes. Oh, I didn't have time to do this or
You're
that.
You're not a victim to your time.
Yes.
You're the boss of your time.
And if you were, if somebody out there is listening to this and they're sitting there in a job that they may not like, and they're trying to discover what their purpose is in life, is there any tips that you would give them, or any takeaways that they could take from this?
So that is such a good question, because I've got some top tips. Maybe I'll give 5. So the first one is your path, your journey is what helps you to find your purpose. So the only way to know what your purpose is by knowing what you don't want. Then you know what you do want. So follow the breadcrumbs, follow the paths. All paths lead to your goal. So there is no right, that's the second thing, there is no right, there is no wrong. There's just the willingness and the ability to keep taking actions, even when you feel like you have failed, quote unquote, in other people's eyes, which is then the third point. It matters how you feel more than anybody else, because you live with you 24/7, so nobody else can own or have an impact on what it is you should be doing. Because ultimately all of the answers are inside us individually. So anybody that we speak to, their role entirely is to help coach those answers out of us, rather than give us a 5-step blueprint plan. Oh, this worked for me, it'll work for you. That's not life, unfortunately. There is no magic pill, there is no shortcut. It's just the breadcrumbs that look like they are going nowhere. And it was a great quote from Steve Jobs, who said, you can only join up the dots when you look back. So that means you have to have the courage to take the steps. The fourth thing is to have gratitude for the job that you're currently in, and start to see all of the good things, all of the good points of what it's bringing to you, to your life, to your day-to-day, how it's paying the bills, the people you're meeting, the experiences you're getting. Because as you well know, when you run a business, there's so many things you didn't know that you need to learn, and you have to learn them on the job. So they always say to learn these things while you're being paid by somebody else. That's a great Gary Vee quote, is learn on somebody else's dollar or dime.
And would you advise that if someone wanted to set up their own business?
And then that's the fifth thing, is set your business up on the side.
Okay.
Because when we come back to it with the 888, you have enough time. You don't necessarily need to be watching certain TV shows that you are. You can outsource certain things around the house. You can look at maybe what would you need to do to live closer to the office so you don't have to commute. How could you do things at the lunch times, after work, at the evenings, at the weekends. And then sort of those are my 5 tips. But the final way to test what you want is if you're doing it, you want it. If you're talking about it,
you don't want
you
it
don't
enough.
want it.
Yeah.
And a mentor of mine always used to say, the only way to know is when the rubber hits the road. We can sit in a classroom and we can learn everything, but the only way to know is to give it a try. And will it work? Might have worked for me, might not work for you. How do you know? Give it a try. And that's sort of the big thing, is the self-belief and the courage and the imposter syndrome, and how do you overcome the fear, and all of these questions that people ask. And we teach mindset. It literally is, you either have regret or you try.
Because 2 reasons. Women are not, a lot of women don't have much sensation inside their vaginal canal. For the reason that they just don't have a relationship with that part of their body because it's inside.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Well, all you're
whereas
used to doing is putting a Tampax up there, I guess, is more often
or
than
washing,
not.
we have this area of our body, we tend to have a sexual relationship, medical relationship, hygiene relationship. That's it, So we don't actually know it very well. So often women are numb inside of there, or the other extreme, pain. If we're numb and we don't have any sensation in there, which is really common, that's really going to affect our ability to orgasm through penetration. And also the type of sex that we have. When it's sort of, the tendency for the model is to be sort of get harder and faster.
Yes.
But as the cock is going in, out, it's not massaging the vaginal canal and enhancing sensation. There's nothing wrong with it. It can feel great. But I think if we learn to slow down and have a different type of sex as well as the faster sex, that enhances the sensation that's available in terms of inside the vaginal canal. So I think once woman starts to increase sensation, try different ways of having sex, I've seen many women start to orgasm through penetration.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Good news, hey?
Yeah, good news, great, yes.
I just spent some time this weekend with a friend of mine who came up from America, and also I stayed at a friend of mine, and all of us were talking about dealing with depression. I think there's a magnified pressure with social, not just with social media generally. I think the role of male has evolved and changed. I can't define it, but I think a lot of men are lost.
I think they are. I completely agree with
the
you.
The macho image isn't quite the thing anymore. Like, hey, let's be the man.
No, because we've all been told, oh, you need to get in touch with your emotions.
And then there's I'm meant to be like more emotional, but that's not me. Who am I? And I think that creates a lot of identity issues. And I think there's a lot, again, maybe I'm not the only one that probably goes through the comparison program in our mind. I don't mean like an official program. A lot of men reach a certain point, they look at themselves and go, I'm not where I want to be, I'm not who I'm meant to be, I'm not with who I want to be, I don't look like the one, and that creates a big spiral. Everyone talks about the depression spiral. My friend who I took, he suffered it for 18 months.
Wow, that's a long time.
I know, and he talked about being suicidal. The only thing that kept him alive was his cat.
It's a cat. Cats can be fantastic.
You're right, exactly.
Yeah.
But he was willing, he's not married, but he was okay with his nephews, he's like his brothers. It was the cat that kept him alive. So for me, it wasn't physically, it was an absolute lack of seeing positivity. That I made myself I knew something wasn't right, so I made a commitment. Always wash, right?
Always wash.
Always wash, because one of the key things of depression is people don't wash, they don't get out of bed. Always wash, always honour your commitments. So I would never miss a commitment, and I would always make the effort to do it, even though sometimes I just wanted to stay in bed. And for me, it's interesting because I had coaches, I had this, I had that, and I just remember it was a Friday, I was travelling into London, and I could just feel my soul, it was yelling, I was going, I need to listen to prayer music, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting on the train to Waterloo, and I'm going through my Spotify, and I'm looking for prayer music, and I'm putting prayer music on, And that's when I got in touch with a friend of mine, and she's a spiritual healer. She's a bit crazy in a good
They
way.
all are, aren't they?
They all are.
But they're incredibly
But I sent her this
helpful.
long message, and she said, "Oh, I've been waiting for you because I've known you're going to be in touch with me." I was like, "What? If you knew it, why didn't you say anything?" No, you had to be ready.
You
blah,
have to
blah.
come to them, and
Yeah. So anyway, and I worked with her for a few months, and she brought me out of it. So I didn't go on medication. And then when I came out of that, back to the original point, I was like, you know what, strategy is not for me anymore.
Okay, well, that's something great that came from it. I
Yeah,
guess. It's
I mean,
like
I had
that knowledge.
clients and stuff, and so then this year I've been closing it down slowly, and then I moved fully into Speaker Express, which I've been giving it my full attention now, and then looking to now grow and scale that.
In relationships, most of the time we show up as our inner child. So we are relating to that person from our childhood self that has these limited false perceptions and identity around love. And that's the main core of my work, is helping that person individuate that inner child to their full adult self, which in your adult self, I'm 51. When I show up as that person, it's very different to the person who's 5 and feels jealous, or the person that feels insecure and unsafe, And you'll have this programming that is, from the womb to the age of 7, that is part of your programming. So you have to do the inner work. You have to do that work. And when you do, your relationship, like your external world, changes. When your internal world changes and you do that inner work, your external will change. And you complete. So I take people through a process of connecting with that, bringing that inner child together with their infinite adult self. And then you look at integrating, like you do the completions on all your past relationships, which is so beautiful and so powerful. You see the gifts of them. Like there's so many gifts to be seen in those relationships.
So do you make people write down all their past meaningful relationships, I guess? And
They can write them. I often get them to write the stories of their past relationship, and then we do a whole integration process, which is really powerful. And it's an energetic thing as well. And then what we do is we look at what are the skills. What new skills do you have to develop in yourself, the way you relate to yourself, so that you can relate to others differently? So that's, things about honouring yourself, loving, like truly putting yourself first. Most often we don't listen to ourselves. Like if you're in a relationship and you're constantly saying, that person doesn't listen to me, guaranteed you do not listen to your own body. You don't listen to your own voice. You don't listen to your needs.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, and then we do what I call love reimagined. Like really, what is love? Like what's juicy, orgasmic, amazing, sexy love? What is it? What is that to you?
And what, is everyone different, or is there a magic pill?
I mean, there's some common themes in that, but there are different. Yeah, everyone does have that sort of uniqueness in there. I mean, but essentially, we all want to be loved,
seen, right?
Seen and we want to be witnessed. We want our lives to be witnessed.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, there's a new interview out every Monday, so hit subscribe and like, and you'll get it straight into your inbox.